We're tracking several new developments this morning on efforts to end the war in Ukraine. U.S. President Donald Trump is now backing away from tomorrow's deadline for Ukraine to sign on to the U.S.-backed peace plan.
Well, I don't have a deadline. You know what the deadline for me is? When it's over. And I think everybody's tired of fighting at this moment. They're losing too many people.
Trump told reporters on board Air Force One that U.S. negotiators are making progress in talks with Ukraine and Russia. Ukraine confirms it has reached a common understanding with the White House on the outline of the potential deal, but more discussion is needed. The U.S. president says it appears Russia has the upper hand in the peace talks, and it's in Ukraine's best interest to reach an agreement. Meanwhile, Trump says his envoy, Steve Witkoff, will be traveling to Moscow soon to meet with Russian President Vladimir Putin. Crystal Gamansing has been following the ongoing talks and joins us now this morning from London. Crystal, what's the latest on the progress for this U.S.-backed peace plan?
Well, there are a lot of discussions and a lot of moving pieces right now. Let's start with what we heard from U.S. President Donald Trump yesterday on board Air Force One when he spent several minutes speaking with reporters about the latest developments when it comes to a peace agreement between Russia and Ukraine. Now, he did walk back from that original deadline that he set for tomorrow for the two sides to sign a deal. He acknowledged that there is still more work to be done and sort of laid out the next steps.
They're going to keep talking. They're talking to Russia now. Steve Witkoff is going over, maybe with Jared. I'm not sure about Jared going, but he's involved in the process. Smart guy, and they're going to be meeting with President Putin, I believe, next week in Moscow.
Okay, so let's spend a little bit of time talking about those two individuals that Trump spoke of right there. We have U.S. Special Envoy Steve Witkoff as well as his son-in-law Jared Kushner, two individuals that were key in signing and getting that peace agreement in the Middle East signed. There has been a leaked telephone conversation, a conversation that happened on October 14th, right around the time of that Middle East peace plan that happened between Witkoff and Russian President Vladimir Putin's top foreign policy advisor, Yuri Ushakov. Now, that conversation, a transcript of it, was published in Bloomberg, and that news agency, based on that transcript, it reveals some insight into that 28-point plan that came out last week. Now, follow me here. There are a few details that you have to sort of walk through to get a little bit more insight into that original plan. That transcript revealed that Witkoff sort of coached Usharov on having President Putin call the U.S. president, how he could craft that conversation and pivot it towards a deal with Ukraine, between Ukraine and Russia, a deal that would be weighted in favor of Russia. Now, with that, it sort of gives us more insight because people were saying that this original 28-point plan was very much crafted by Russia, had many Russian points in it, and so there does suggest to be that origins of that plan coming from Russia, and that's based on that transcript from that leaked telephone call. Now, Usharov did get asked about that leaked conversation, basically confirming, yes, there were phone calls. There were many phone calls, according to him, and he said potentially it was leaked to derail the peace process at this point. We do know that he will be going to Moscow next week and continuing those conversations with top Russian officials. So nothing more has been achieved at this point, Marianne, other than a little bit more insight into how we got that original 28-point plan, which has since been altered with more of a Ukrainian slant.
Thank you for walking us through that because, yes, so many twists and turns unless you're following this very closely. In the meantime, what are we hearing from allies in Europe?
Well, we know that European allies who are a part of the coalition of the willing are very much behind Ukraine. They worked over the last weekend in Geneva, Switzerland, to come up with the new refined plan that was presented to the Russian side. We did hear from Ursula von der Leyen, the president of the European Commission. She addressed the European Parliament today and again reiterated the point that, yes, everyone wants peace, that everyone wants wants this war to end, but it has to end in a way that is respecting Ukraine's sovereignty and ensuring its security going forward.
We need to be clear that there cannot be unilateral carving up of a sovereign European nation, and that borders cannot be changed by force. If today we legitimize and formalize the undermining of borders, we open the doors for more wars tomorrow, and we cannot let this happen.
So there you have the president of the European Commission very clearly stating once again the position of Ukraine, the position of Europe, that the borders must not change based on force. There is more talk coming out of the Kremlin. We are hearing from Russia's deputy foreign minister saying at this point Russia has no plans to make any concessions on some of the key points that have been presented in the latest version of the peace plan. So very much waiting to see what comes of next. And the big push will be next week when Witkoff is in Moscow.
Thanks so much for this, Crystal. That's Crystal Gamansing in London.